Yu-Gi-Oh! The Duelist of the Roses is a PlayStation 2 collectible card game hybrid based on Kazuki Takahashi's incredibly popular anime slash manga slash collectible card game. It's a game that, when it comes down to it, has absolutely no appeal to anyone that isn't already way into Yu-Gi-Oh! The merits of the game on its own aren't that spectacular. The game takes some liberties with the standard Yu-Gi-Oh! Storyline. It takes place in medieval Europe during this conflict between these two factions in England. And one of the factions actually brings you back in time as this sort of anonymous duelist to help tip the scales in their favor. You get most of the story in the beginning, where they just sort of set up the premise. Beyond that, you pretty much just go through a series of duels with these different opponents. The actual gameplay in Yu-Gi-Oh! The Duelist of the Roses takes a little bit of liberty with the standard Yu-Gi-Oh! Formula. It's not just like a straight collectible card game. The two big differences between the regular Yu-Gi-Oh! Card game and what you play in the Duelist of the Roses are the inclusion of a leader card, which sort of carries all of your hit points and can introduce special abilities as you go on in the game. And also the fact that you play the game on this sort of battlefield grid, where you move your cards into different positions in order to attack your opponent's cards. So it kind of plays like a mix between a collectible card game and a game of chess. You can't really compare it to chess in that it doesn't have that much depth. In fact, as a strategy game, it's pretty shallow, because no matter how much strategic skill you have, it really kind of boils down to the strength of your cards. And this is where the game's biggest problem is, because right when you start off, you're given a choice of 3 different decks of cards to play with, but none of these decks are strong enough to really compete with any of the opponents that you first face. If you want to be able to even beat your first game, what you need to do is go into the game's custom duel mode, where you can play against a much less intimidating opponent, get some cards from him, and build up the strength of your deck. It seems really peculiar to me that they would set the game up like this. If you consider the age bracket of the people that are probably going to be most into a Yu-Gi-Oh! Game, this is just going to bring a lot of frustration to a lot of people playing the game. The gameplay pretty much stays the same through the length of the game. You don't really get that much change throughout it, so it can get kind of monotonous, and the whole presentation of the game, the visuals, the sound, don't really give you much reprieve from that. There's not a lot to distract you from it, because the game basically looks like an original PlayStation game. The grid that you'll be looking at most of the time is very flat, very plain, very pixelated. The only thing in the game that doesn't look like it was pulled directly out of a PlayStation game are the little avatars that will appear for your different monsters. These look okay. They do a fair job of representing the cards that they're supposed to be based on. Even that's not enough to save it. The game just doesn't look good. All the menus look real stripped down. It looks like they were done really quick and dirty like. The sound is also real bare bones. You'll hear, the usual sort of blips and pings when selecting stuff in menus. And other than that, all you'll really ever hear is the game's background music, which is just kind of bad canned MIDI. When it comes down to it, Yu-Gi-Oh! The Duelist of the Roses isn't a very good Yu-Gi-Oh! Game. It isn't a very good collectible card game. It doesn't have much going for it other than the Yu-Gi-Oh! License. If you're into Yu-Gi-Oh!, you might want to give it a try. Otherwise, you truly have no business playing this game.